All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and get started because I know we have a lot to talk about tonight. I want to make sure we have some time to do that. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to tonight's session of our ongoing Elite Development Invitational. As you know, we've touched on the college search process quite a bit throughout this program. You know, recruiting, different kinds of things, and we've touched on it in our development check-ins, that kind of thing, and also had that session that we had with Marika, one of the alums from one of our programs, and her current head coach at Rivier University. So obviously that was a while ago now. Wanted to make sure everybody's kind of still on this, and through these check-ins, we've realized you guys still have a lot of questions about the process and kind of what to do and when you should be doing it and that kind of thing. And it is a lot. It can be overwhelming. So wanted to make sure we touch on it again. And I am thrilled tonight to introduce to you our guest speaker for the night. We have Nelson Gord with us, who is an expert in the college baseball recruiting field and comes with a really impressive background. Just to give you guys kind of a little bit of information, like many of you, Nelson was a multi-sport athlete in high school. He went on to play Division I baseball at the University of Illinois at Chicago, played professional baseball, has been a scout with the Yankees organization, and has coached at various levels, from youth travel baseball, high school, and at the collegiate level as well. As an athlete, and I thought this was an interesting fact that he shared with me, but as an athlete, he once played all 9 positions in a game. And although an interesting fact, it's also relevant, right? I think we touched on that earlier in some of our sessions about, really trying to be versatile and market yourself, as an athlete, and, depending on the instance, as opposed to maybe just a one position player. So I think that was an interesting fact that he mentioned, and hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Currently, Nelson is both the head baseball coach at Harper College, as well as the director of baseball for Next College Student Athlete, which is NCSA for short. Although tonight is going to be focused on kind of the college search and recruitment process in general, you will hear a bit about NCSA specifically during his presentation, and some of you may already be aware of the various recruiting platforms that are out there. But to give you guys kind of some context at the beginning, NCSA is a college athlete recruiting platform and has some tools and resources to help athletes like yourselves kind of find the right athletic and academic fit. You're going to hear a little bit about the different things you should be focusing on during kind of each year of high school. And if you guys are juniors and seniors here tonight and listening in and haven't done some of these things that maybe you should have already done, that's okay, right? This is not to scare you. It's just meant to make sure you have that information, and you might have some work to do now in the coming months, right? So again, I don't want to talk too much, but want to make sure you guys all have the context, and do want to leave a little bit of time at the end for questions. So be ready. If they come to you during the session, feel free to pop them in the Q&A throughout. We will answer them at the very end, but you can kind of throw them in whenever you're ready. So Nelson's an awesome resource, and don't be shy. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Nelson, and you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's quite the intro. And what I will say about playing all 9 positions is that just proves that you, or that I at least, I didn't do anything really great, just did a lot of things really well. And I would say that was my biggest attribute, was just my willingness and, ability to do a lot of things in the game. And it came from being a student of the game and actually being a multi-sport athlete in high school. So thank you for pointing that out. Good memories for sure. And we'll go ahead and get started. So I know Sarah gave the background on me, but I do like to always throw these 4 pictures up on the screen because they are so important. And I know that everybody on the line here tonight is a high school athlete. So that would be that second picture right there. But what I will say is that as life gets a little bit more complicated and you start going through the recruiting process, it's easy to start to treat the sport that you love more like a job, more like work, and you kind of lose that little league passion, the reason that you began playing. And that's what makes that first picture so relevant. I think I was 8 or 9 years old at that time, and I wasn't even thinking anything about college baseball. I'm not even sure if I knew college baseball existed then. My dream was to play for the Chicago Cubs, and that's what it was. It was a dream. It was what I dressed up as on Halloween, and what I like to do with my friends, but it was the furthest thing from work. The picture, the third picture there while I was at UIC, so important because I was the first person in my family to go to and graduate from a 4-year school, to have that college degree, and something that everybody in my family was so proud of. And I can honestly say that without sports, without keeping me on that path and motivating me to do that, I'm not sure if that would have been the case. So again, so important. And then to bring it full circle, I signed, a professional contract with the Houston Astros. So you have my little league jersey and uniform and playing days with the Astros, and then had the chance to play for them in the minor leagues for a year back in 2007, long before there are any garbage cans or World Series championships. Some of you may get that, but really a lot of dreams recognized throughout that time. And the beautiful thing is that even to this day, I get to stay in the game. Sarah read off the list of things that I'm currently doing. But that's what I love to do is help you all, help student athletes achieve those dreams, whether it is, playing at the high school varsity level, playing in college, playing beyond college, just unlocking the door and help being a part of your story and help you realize things that you may not have known about, kind of streamlining the process and help you understand that there are so many opportunities out there, and the action that you take oftentimes is going to give you that reaction that you're looking for. So our agenda for tonight, you can see it right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to talk about when the process starts, what that timeline looks like. I know we have a mixture of grad years. I saw a bunch of 24s, some 21s, 22s, 23s. So we have a mix. So we're going to break it down year by year and let you know what you need to be doing. We're going to talk about how coaches evaluate talent, and something that I think many of you are familiar with to an extent. But again, we're going to make the process a little bit easier and help identify those things that you really should be investing in and really working towards. And we can kind of eliminate some of those that might be a little bit more challenging. We're going to talk about where you're qualified to play. One of the biggest questions that we often get, one thing that I'm very good at talking about, being a head junior college coach and walking parents through that part of it and athletes through that part of it. And then lastly, we're going to talk about your coach's role. And, when I'm talking about there is your high school coach, your travel coach, could be your hitting or pitching instructor, all those individuals that you work with throughout the year, and really how they play into recruiting, things you can do to help them, help you, and, really not to place the expectation level too high on what their role is because of the challenges that they face and the things that they have to be doing. So when does the process start? You see right there, I said the simple answer is yesterday. Okay, if you are a 2024 athlete, you're in your freshman year right now, there's a lot of new things going on, depending on where you're at in the country. Some of you are e-learning, some are actually in the building. But it is kind of crazy to think that you're just a freshman and you're already talking about going to college. Okay, same thing for you 2021s. It's not too late. If you haven't decided where you're going to school yet next year, okay, there still are a ton of opportunities out there. You just really need to get a little bit more aggressive and proactive in what you're trying to do. Realize that you see it oftentimes from your Power 5 schools, some of the bigger conferences, you'll see verbal commitments from underclassmen. That has kind of slowed down a little bit because of the pandemic, which we'll talk about the effect of that here in a little bit. But the important thing to note there is that in each of those cases, those athletes were speaking with coaches, they were emailing coaches, they were getting their information out there as 8th graders, as freshmen, as sophomores, because if they didn't do that, then obviously there's no possible way they could ever verbally commit to a school. The important thing is you need to educate yourself, which we're doing right now, which you continue to do, which this series of webinars is great for, and you need to build your network. Okay, and we'll talk about the breakdown by year here in a second, but it's like everything else in this world. The bigger that your network is, the more coaches that you have in it, the more coaches that have been exposed to you as a player, the more opportunity you're ultimately going to have. So let's talk about when coaches can contact you, right? There are no limitations around when you can reach out to coaches and email them, but really when it starts to take shape and when those offers do begin to come in is really dependent on the restrictions placed around them. And, for the sake of this, we're going to really focus on the Division I and Division II routes, because those are the ones where there are the most restrictions. When it comes to Division III schools, NAIA programs, junior colleges, there aren't many around when they can reach out to you. Okay, so that is really a great thing for those that want to go on and continue down the baseball path and play collegiate baseball, because really there are limited amounts of restrictions that are placed on you when it comes to contacting those coaches. Okay, so when it comes to the Division I level, you can see it right there. They cannot contact you before September 1st of your junior year. That's a huge date for many Division I athletes, for many Division I recruits, because there really is not supposed to be any contact. But as you can see there in that little orange note below, 46% of those recruits said that they were talking to coaches before their junior year. And you may be wondering how that happens. Oftentimes it happens through their high school coach. It happens through a mutual friend, potentially a former teammate, could happen through their travel coach. It's something where the college coach and one of those other parties gets together and arranges a time for that athlete to reach out to that coach. And, it just so happens that they either answer the phone, they receive the email message. So it's a roundabout way of doing it. It is something that's done often. It's how those early verbal commits do tend to take place, but just something to be aware of. So when you see it on social media, you see it on a website somewhere that a player did verbally commit, that's normally the route that happened. When it comes to the Division II level, it is accelerated a little bit. They get an extra, what would that be? You get the month of August, you get the month of July, you get an extra 10 weeks. Okay, so June 15th after your sophomore year, that's when those coaches can begin to contact you. And like I said earlier, at the Division III level, NAIA programs, and at the junior college level, there really are no restrictions. Okay, and in some cases, you can even go as far as working out with those different programs and being a part of their practices, their workouts, and surely the camps and clinics that they're hosting. In the blue right there, you'll see a few terms that you should be familiar with. When it comes to visits, those are grouped into either official or unofficial visits. An official visit means that the college or university are paying all of your expenses. Okay, so they're paying for you to stay in the dorms or stay at a hotel with your family, paying for all your meals. If you do attend a game or some other athletic event that's going on, all of those expenses are covered. You're limited to 5 of those, so use them wisely. When it comes to unofficial visits, those are ones that you and your family decide to take outside of the expenses of the school, right? So you pay your own way, whether you're driving or flying out there, and everything is going to be covered by you as a family. But the nice thing is you're not limited on those. So I would really encourage you throughout, this winter, going into next summer, when you're on the travel tournament scene or whatever you're doing as a family, take some time to just visit different levels of schools and get familiar with what those campuses are like, so that you have a nice foundation for understanding, how those different schools function. When it comes to the recruiting calendar, you can see there are 3 different phrases that are listed there: a contact period, a quiet period, and a dead period. A contact period is when schools can interact with you on or off their college campus. Okay, they're able to communicate with you openly. Again, this is really limited to the Division I and Division II, those athletic scholarship levels. A quiet period means that they're able to have on-campus visits with you, that they're able to interact with you on their college campus, but not at a tournament, not off-site in any way, shape, or form. And then a dead period, eliminates both on-campus and off-campus interactions and communication. Okay, so if you want to dig into there a little bit deeper, I think we'll share this entire slideshow, but that link there at the bottom, you can probably copy and paste it. I'll do it afterwards, and I'm sure Sarah will share it with you. But that has a even more in-depth breakdown of the recruiting rules and the calendar that goes along with it. So we're going to touch on a little bit here the impact that COVID has had on recruiting, okay? Because even though I'm sure you're exhausted about, talking about it, it is very relevant and it is going to impact many of you over the next couple of years. Okay, so right now, when it comes to Division I recruiting, there is no in-person recruiting until the year 2021. Okay, all in-person recruiting has been suspended, and it's something that you have to be aware of. Coaches can still communicate with you if you are a junior or senior, via phone calls or text messages or social media. Okay, but that can't happen in person, on campus, or off campus. At the Division II level, okay, we're currently in a quiet period. Okay, so the quiet period has been lifted, but depending on the campuses that you're at, that still continues on because many campuses continue to be closed. Okay, so again, a quiet period means that they can have on-campus interactions with you, but not off campus. Okay, so if you do have questions about what schools are doing, make sure to reach out to that coach. And then, as we said before, at the Division III level, and we'll also carry that to the NIA and the junior colleges, there are no recruiting restrictions. Okay, so again, it's up to the individual institutions as far as what they're able to do. More bullet points here. Many of them are pretty redundant. D1 suspended through January 1st. Coaches can virtually observe you. I think many of you familiarized yourself with that throughout this summer when tournaments or games or some of the events that you may have played in were being live streamed. What you have to really bear down on and look at is see what schools offer virtual visits. I'll say of all the negative things that have occurred over the course of the past, what has it been, 8 months, 8 months, one of the real positives is that many schools and athletic departments have really invested into their virtual visits, and they're great. Some of them have even went as far as, putting on VR goggles. I know there's a lot of those coming out and being more mainstream now, but you could walk around the campus and see what the athletic department and athletic facilities look like. Okay, but certainly check in on those and see if it is something that you want to pursue once some of the restrictions open up. Okay, and know that this could change at any point in time. I know around the country, numbers are starting to increase. Throughout the world, numbers are starting to increase again. So the NCAA at any point in time could come together and say, hey, Division II is completely shut down. Division IIIs aren't going to be allowed to do anything. So again, time is of the essence, and make sure to be proactive and do some of the things that you can do rather than worrying about the things that you cannot. So for those of you that are the 2024 grads, for our freshmen, okay, some real actionable things for you to do, and I'd say they're a little bit out of order, but the first one I would say is create that list of 100 prospective schools. Okay, there are over 1,600 schools that play college baseball that are out there, so we're talking about what, less than 6 or 7% of them in total. Build that list out. Okay, it could be regional, it could be by division level, it could be schools that have your major. Okay, but really build that thing out, and then take a couple every week and dig in and research them a little bit more. For any math people out there, if you had 2 schools per week, 52 weeks in a year, we're right back at that 100 number. Okay, so the timeline works pretty well. Okay, but you want to educate yourself. You want to take this time so you know, as a sophomore, as a junior, you can really bear down on the schools that are, 1, interested in you, and 2, have the things that you're looking for in a college or university. Also on there, and you'll see this over the course of the next few slides, film a skills video. Okay, we'll talk about the details of a skills video, but even if it's as simple as right now taking a 15-pitch bullpen, 20 swings in the cage. If you're a catcher, showing yourself receiving or blocking. If you're an infielder, taking some ground balls from shortstop, or showing yourself turning some double plays. Okay, just find things that you do well and get in the habit of posting them. Okay, schools can't see you if you don't give them the ability to do so. If you don't put video out, they can't consume that content. Okay, so make it a habit. At least try one right now and continue on as you go through this process. Sending out letters. Okay, I'm not saying that you need to email or send a handwritten letter to your dream school right now telling them that you're ready to commit. What I will say is introduce yourself. Keep the emails short, keep the content and the profiles big. Okay, have a lot of content for them to consume if they choose so. Okay, but you can't do any of that without first saying hello. So I would say as a freshman, err on the side of getting a lot of emails or letters out, okay, but keeping it short and sweet and to the point. Go on at least 3 unofficial visits to colleges. Again, you could parlay this with other travel that you already have planned or tournaments or camps or showcases that you're going to attend. Okay, but it's a good thing to practice, just as you need to work on your skills and work in the cage or work on the mound. You also need to become a better recruit, okay, by knowing what sorts of questions to ask, by knowing what to look for when you go on an unofficial visit, and just by having a better understanding of the way schools function. Pick 2 or 3 camps and 1 or 2 showcases to attend. I'll simplify that even more. I think that showcases are a great way to set goals. And if you pick one event every year to say, hey, I'm going to throw this hard, or I'm going to run this fast, or do these things right now, and I want to get to this point 1 year from now, it's a good system to get into. Okay, I don't think you need to go crazy on the showcase circuit and spend all sorts of money, but I do think you do need to make some of those things official. It's one thing to do it on a high school field down the street, which is super beneficial. It's another thing to do it under the watchful eye of a verified source, that is going to be unbiased and see yourself around other athletes from around the country. And then lastly on there, you'll see follow up and build relationships. Okay, we said before that Division I schools can't talk to you, they can't call you. Division II schools can't as a freshman. Okay, but they can pick up the phone, they can answer it. Okay, and also when it comes to the D3s and the NAIs and the JUCOs, they certainly can as well. Okay, so get those reps in, learn how to introduce yourself to a coach. I think it's something that's not done nearly enough. And for those that are willing to do it, it's pretty impactful to those college coaches that are on the receiving end of it. All right, for you 2023s, for you sophomores, okay, again, a common theme, film, update your skills video, get it evaluated by a third party. Okay, and what that means, NCSA is a third party. There's other companies out there that do similar sorts of things, but we're not affiliated with any one school or college. So it's going to be objective. It's going to give you that arbitrary view that you're looking for. The individuals at Major League Baseball, a lot of the coaches that you've interacted with throughout this process, they're going to be pretty arbitrary and be willing to give feedback if you develop that sort of relationship with them. Okay, but it's important not to just get your eyes or a college coach's eyes on it, but ask others that have gone through it what their suggestions and what their advice is and how to make that better. Continue to research schools and narrow that list. So I would say if you started with 100, every year that you go, you want to chop off maybe 25 of them. So you 100, 75, 50, on down to 25 by the time you're entering your senior year. Continue to build relationships, much of the same. I'd say the only difference on here is filling out those questionnaires. That's something that you can do as a freshman, but probably a little bit more relevant as a sophomore or junior. And those can be found on any school's website, on their athletic parts of their website or their baseball or softball specific parts. Okay, but it's a way to easily get into their database and make sure that that coach has all updated and accurate information. As a junior, okay, for you 2022s, again, skills video. I'm gonna have a short little quiz, give you a little hint. Skills video is gonna be the answer to it because it's so important. Okay, beyond the academic part, beyond having great great transcript and really working hard in that area, that skills video is going to be your second best friend throughout the recruiting process. Following up with coaches in a timely manner, right? We said before about the D1s and D2s and their recruiting timelines. even though the D3s and the smaller schools can contact you ahead of time, most of them really don't start until your junior year. Ask coaches where you stand. Okay, if you want transparency and you want honesty from a coach, then you have to ask the questions. Okay, and I'm sure in most cases they're going to be straight up with you. Okay, if that's what you want in your experience, then you're going to have to put yourself out there a little bit. Questionnaires we covered, unofficial visits we covered, and again, narrowing down that list. So we went 175, now we're down to 50 as a junior. And finally, as a senior, okay, if it's applicable, right? Not everybody gets to take an official visit. I was a Division I baseball player. I never took an official visit because my recruiting happened a little bit later. Okay, that whole part of the process was already complete. Again, following up with coaches, if you want them to get back to you, make sure to get back to them. Okay, and one thing I didn't point out, know that the college coaching world is a very small circle. There might be a coach at your dream school that was once college roommates or good friends or grew up in the same area as a smaller school that's contacting you, or one that you're not paying much attention to. And if you're going to quote unquote big league them and not get back to them, that information may get back to the school that you really want to go to, and all of a sudden you've put yourself behind the 8 ball. Okay, so treat every single coach with the utmost respect. Make sure to get back to all of them. And if the answer is that you're not interested in that school, let them know that. Okay, you're making their job easier, and they'll have a lot more respect for you, and they'll actually promote you in some cases if you're willing to stand up and just say, hey, coach, you don't have my major. I'm not willing to be that far from home. I'm not willing to be that close to home. But whatever way you look at it, just make sure to get back to them. Financial aid. Okay, for some, that's going to be a more important piece of the puzzle than others. Okay, but know when it comes to the federal money, FAFSA, okay, that is a pool that runs out pretty quickly. So as soon as that opens up, you're going to want to get on it. For institution-based money or scholarships that come within the school, or third-party scholarships or grants, again, you're going to have to apply. You're going to have to put yourself out there. Okay, so really lock in and have a game plan going into your senior year so you could be on top of those things. Sign and commit to a school or program, right? That's the goal. That's why you guys are attending this session. That's why there are, what it looks like 28 athletes here. We fill out just about a whole roster. Okay, that is the end goal, and you should celebrate and enjoy that moment. Find out the summer workout schedule. One of the fatal flaws that college athletes make is they get to that signing or to that commitment, and they're like, oh, mission accomplished. And then they start to lose track of their work ethic and the things that they need to put into it. And they get behind the 8 ball when they're coming into school. You want to be at the top of your game. You want to find out what those athletes that are already at the school are doing. So when you step foot on campus, you're ready to rock, right? Nothing's a surprise. You're in the best shape of your life, and you're able to compete for playing time as a freshman. So how do coaches evaluate players? Right? See this thing right here? Everybody has it. Back in the day when I was going through it, I would go to my grandparents' house and take their VCR, right? There might be a tape hanging around here somewhere, but an actual cassette VCR tape. They're about this big, and you pop them in. Many of you probably have no idea what those things are. I've seen them. But I would have to hook up one to another, and I would have to copy videos in order to send those out and bubble wrap. And it was a whole huge process. And you don't have to worry about that anymore, right? You guys have phones that my guess is for most of you are more cameras and more email or, school devices than they are actual phones that you talk on, right? So they produce much better video than we had back then. You're able to share it at the click of a button. Utilize that. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is and how many times I've heard from coaches, they'll tell me about a player and I'll say, hey, can you shoot me some video? And they have nothing, right? And I'm mind blown because I'm like, what the heck? They have, 20 TikToks posted and they're tweeting out all this stuff, and, they're Instagramming every meal that they ate, but they can't give me 15 swings or, 20 pitches in a bullpen. Okay, update that video. You guys are all capable of doing it. Like we said before, do what you do best and put it out there. If you've ever been to a tryout or a pro style workout, that's all you have to do. Take some swings in the cage, field some balls from your position, throw a bullpen, send it out to a coach. One of the excuses that I've heard from families or from athletes that are a little bit younger, that would be the 2023s and 24s in this group is, well, I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get faster. I'm working with the new hitting coach. I'm working on my pitching mechanics. These guys and girls, the coaches at the college level have been through it for years, right? They understand that you're going to be bigger, faster, and stronger as an 18-year-old than you are as a 14 or 15-year-old. Okay, but you can't wait. Get it out there. They're going to give you feedback on what you need to work on. And again, you're going to get in the habit of doing the right thing. And then lastly on there, I put, do you know who's watching? One of the real benefits to using NCSA is that when a coach looks at your video, you get to see what coach looked at your video. Anybody could post to YouTube, and I would encourage that, and something you definitely should do. But you could just see how many views it's had, not the specifics around what coaches have looked at it. And it's a lot easier to reach out to a college coach when you say, hey, coach, I noticed that you looked at my profile, you watched my video. What do you think? Than it is picking up the phone or sending out an email and guessing that a school looked at your video and hoping that they did and asking if they did. Okay, so again, one of the real benefits of setting up your profile, which will give all of you access to, as this goes on. Where am I qualified to play? Okay, so like I said before, there are over 1,600. I think the number was 1,643 last spring. College programs throughout the country. That's like 300 at the Division I level. You have, let me think about this for a second, about 250 at the Division II level. You have about 400 at the Division III level, about 200 NAIA programs, and the balance of that are the junior colleges and a few other small governing bodies. Okay, but over 1,600. And that equates to about 53,000 total college players, and only a small percentage of that ends up being Division I baseball players, okay, or Division I in any sport. And what you have to understand as well is that when it comes to baseball and softball, those are equivalency sports, which means that they are allowed 11.7 scholarships, but they don't give out full rides. If you hear of an athlete in baseball, an equivalency sport, getting a full ride, that's like a unicorn. Okay, it just doesn't happen very often because they have rosters of 35, somewhere between 25 and 35. They're allowed to scholarship 27 of those athletes. So if you have 27 scholarship athletes and you have to divide up roughly 12 scholarships, you can see that most of them are going to be between 30%, maybe to 60%. Okay, at the Division III level, at the NAIA level, okay, they have a lot more flexibility. They're able to stack, academic money on top of money that you might get from third-party grants or, a scholarship from your school or a variety of other places. Okay, a lot of Division I's can't do that. Okay, they're bound just to those athletic scholarships. So you may not get as much money going the Division I route as you may looking at some different options. And lastly on there, do you dream of riding the pine? Okay, I understand when you watch Notre Dame play Clemson, maybe on Saturday, for anybody that did that, to huge programs with the fanciest of uniforms and athletic facilities. But that'd be great to be a part of. But do you want to go to a place like that and never see the field? Okay, I've never heard any person say, hey, I want to be in a great deal of debt when I come out of college, and I also never want to get on the field. Okay, so you really want to find that sweet spot of a place that's going to challenge you, a place that has the major, meets you academically, meets you socially, is able to pay for a portion of your school, some way, shape, or form. Okay, and you can get on the field, right? You want to get out there and compete because it's something that you love to do. Okay, so take all those things, take that whole recipe, put it together, and find that perfect fit school for you to go to. What is your coach's role? Okay, it's really tough, right? I've run a travel program that has about 200 high school athletes in it. I've been the head coach at a high school where we had 65 to 70 players every year. To believe that any one coach is able to manage this process for any one of you is just not realistic. Okay, a coach's job is to win ball games, help develop you as a person, as a player, really on that player development side, right? Teach you how to be a better hitter, be a better pitcher, be a better defensive player. Okay, put their best lineup on the field. And on top of that, most coaches have to deal with fundraising. They have to deal with their full-time job. They have to deal with their own family. Okay, and that's not taking anything away from any coach, right? I am one myself. Okay, what it is saying, if you're sitting back and you're waiting for your coach to do it for you, it's unreasonable, it's unfair, and it simply just can't happen. Okay, the last bullet point I put on there, won't work harder for you, or won't work harder than you for you. That's what I would tell my players. If you're going to put yourself out there and you're going to share my name as a reference, and you're sending out emails and you're making phone calls, and a coach calls me asking about you, I'm going to bust my butt and I'm going to tell that coach everything that they need to know. Okay, because you're the one doing the work and I'm supporting you in that. Okay, and I think most coaches, the vast majority that I've engaged with over the course of the past, call it 15, 16 years, have felt very much the same way. Okay, so you put forth the effort, they're going to reward you by supporting you in it. Okay, pull in the same direction. For those of you that play both travel and high school, don't put one against the other. Okay, make sure that everybody's a part of the conversation and utilize tools like what MLB provides, what NCSA has to offer. Market yourself through social media and put the right thing out there. And when everybody's pulling in the same direction, a lot more is going to end up happening. So how can NCSA help? I know Sarah said at the beginning of this that there are a lot of different avenues. NCSA is just one of them. Okay, there are a variety of different places. And what I can say is if there's an opportunity to get your name, your position, your grad year, your contact information into a database that college coaches search, do it. Okay, because just as no two people use the same social media platform, or not everybody uses the same bank and not everybody shops at the same stores. Okay, not all coaches use the same things. There's a lot of crossover and there are some that are better than others. Okay, but the more you get your information out there, the higher likelihood there is that a coach is going to come across your information, and see what you have to offer. Okay, so first thing with NCSA is your online presence. And you could see someone that joined you for a call right there, pretty a special person, and her NCSA profile, and you could see the things are on there, right? The videos, the statistics, some of the stuff is hidden because your privacy is very important to us. Okay, but for college coaches, they're able to log in and see your transcript. They're able to see your GPA. They're able to see your contact information, your parents' contact information. And the easier you make that for them, the more successful you're going to be in this process. Okay, so make sure you have all your information in one spot. The college search. I said before about you freshmen, you should have a list of 100 schools, or juniors having a list of 50 schools. And you're like, well, where am I supposed to find this? And how do I compile a list? Okay, the college search map right there is a completely free tool for you to use. You could see, I don't know if I can draw on this. I'm sure there is a way, but I'm not that smart. But you can see along the right-hand side there on the list of schools that you can favorite different schools. And the coach is going to get notifications that you like their school, that you followed or favorited their school. Okay, and that's how you build out that list. If you express interest in them, they're going to at least look at you and see what you have to offer. If they go to a profile that doesn't have any information on it, it's going to be really hard to evaluate. If they go to a profile and it has video and transcript and references and everything else, okay, it's going to pique their interest. Okay, so it's a great place to build out your list, to familiarize yourself. We said to research a couple schools a week. By clicking on each of those schools, you'd be able to find out more about the demographics of the school, their academic standing, what the requirements are, what financial aid looks like. Okay, so play around with it and make sure that you get a better understanding of, what those different schools look like. Next thing on here is the recruit match technology or algorithm, and also the communication tool, the communication center. Okay, so the recruit match algorithm is something that is for premium members of NCSA, something that you can unlock. Okay, but what that does is that takes the recruiting history of the school, what their current roster looks like, and then combines that with you as an athlete, what your skill level is, what your academics look like, and it gives you a percent likelihood that a school like that would recruit an athlete like you. It doesn't say that they're going to guarantee you a scholarship, but it says based on historicals, here's the percent chance that something could happen. Okay, so a really neat thing, a really powerful thing. And I've had so many athletes that I've had the opportunity to work with that have found schools that they didn't even know existed, ended up being a great match. They reached out to the coach, went on a visit, and next thing you know, they have a great 4-year career there. Okay, so something definitely to look into. Same thing with the communication center. Okay, you could go to every school's, you can Google search every school's website and start to pull that information and email them. But again, when you're looking at their page within the NCSA profile, you can click a button and shoot an email directly to them. Okay, so is NCSA the only answer? No, it's one piece of the whole myriad of things that you could focus on to help you become a better recruit. So I think I covered all the slides there. And Sarah, wow, you clicked that fast as soon as you saw yourself pop up. And I know that was like a ton of information that I threw at you all, but hopefully everybody was able to take something from it. And I would imagine that there has to be some questions out there. So let's fire away.
That's perfect. Well, thanks so much. First of all, that was awesome. It is a lot of information, and we knew it kind of would be, right? But it's good and it's important. And we do have one. Those of you guys that I know there's tons of questions out there. I know there are because I know I hear it in my check-in sessions with you guys. So start to put them through in the Q&A if you can. But we do have one in there right now, and you touched on it a little bit, Nelson. But so obviously NCSA being one platform or avenue to get this information, I think. But we have a question asking, where can I get email addresses to send the skills videos, and email them? And, I'm sure there's lots of different answers, but if you can go ahead and take a stab.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said before, the most general way to do it, and, kind of the manual way would be to Google search the school, go to their baseball website, go to their coaching staff, or sometimes they have the entire athletic department listed. And most of the time, email addresses are listed right on there. One thing that I'll say this from a college coach standpoint that is much easier is most of them in that recruiting questionnaire or interested athletes section, they'll have a place where you can paste your YouTube video or any additional info, and that usually goes right into their recruiting software so that they don't have to transfer the information over. So probably the best route would be to do both, right? Fill out the questionnaire and also email them the link directly. But that's a time-consuming process. Like we said before, you can also go through your NCSA profile and share it with them there. And in that case, you're just sharing one link, and you can paste your YouTube link right into your profile, so it's there. You can always update it.
Perfect. And actually, it's a nice segue a little bit. I see a question here in the chat. I think we touched on it a little bit, but and I might just take a stab and answer this one. So Meredith is asking if NCSA is a free resource. So you can set up a free profile, Meredith. So I definitely encourage all of you guys listening today, as Nelson said, right? You want to get your information out there in as many places as you can. You're going to want to do some email outreach directly. You can use the NCSA platform. You can use other platforms. There's lots of different ways, right? You can start today by setting up a free profile. We will be sending you guys a link. So keep an eye out tomorrow for some information to come through, you can use that link to go ahead and set up a free page. No pressure, but it's definitely a good place to start. And I see, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and one thing, because you guys are a part of this program, that we're going to do is we're going to unlock the digital pieces of it. So you'll get the communication tool. You'll be able to see what schools are following you. You just won't be assigned somebody internally from NCSA. So that way, Sarah, you and your team are able to follow along.
Right.
So make sure that you fill that out so that they have that benefit as well.
Awesome. And I see another question here from Lily. So Lily's asking, and it's a good question. I had it on my list as well. So Nelson, you touched on the videos a bit and kind of what to include, and talked about kind of, MLB workout style, tryout style kind of stuff. Can you talk a little bit about, kind of combining that with gameplay? What does that look like, from your perspective, really, as a college coach too? Like, what do you kind of like to see in that standpoint?
So if you do have access to game footage and there's like something really cool that happened, right? You make a play in the hole from shortstop, or you turn in a sweet double play or a diving catch in the outfield, a walk-off base hit, think about it like a movie trailer, right? Like lead in and be like, wow, like that was so cool, I want to watch more. And then immediately follow it up with whatever you do best, right? If your best skill is that you have a rocket arm, like show it off. Get a pocket radar, get something, or just show yourself throwing across the diamond. You want to sequence your video from your best attribute on down, right? Because if you can keep them watching, and you can engage them and pique their interest level, then you just have a better chance, right? So I would say, if you had to choose between the two, definitely the skills videos, showcasing that. But if you can sprinkle in some really cool moments from game footage, it never hurts.
Actually, can you expand a little bit, or maybe I'll just drive home the point? As much as you're going to highlight and focus on your best skills, right? So you might go in that order. You're still going to showcase everything, right? So if I'm not a fast runner, I'm still going to show my base running, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So some standards right there. You're going to want to show yourself running home to first, or running a 60-yard dash, or I know with some of the USA baseball stuff recently, we've even done first to third, which is a new metric. So they're going to want to see that. And that's a way of verifying things, because you can put into a profile or send to a coach that you run, X number of seconds, but to verify it on video with the stopwatch is pretty important. Same thing with a catcher, your pop times, again, super important. Exit velocity as a hitter, again, that incorporates the radar gun if you have access to one. Yeah, so include everything as if you were a part of a showcase or a tryout, but then just, again, put your best stuff first and your not so good stuff, things that you're developing, the things that we're working on, right? Everybody's got their things that they need to work on, put that towards the tail end.
And I think, it was mentioned earlier, and I know we've mentioned in other sessions, guys, but you don't need fancy equipment to do this stuff, right? Everybody has a cell phone. Just like the coaches are looking at things on their cell phone, right? You guys can do this on a cell phone, easy. And Nelson, curious on your thoughts on including things. I know, there are some really fancy ones, music, all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, right? The skills are important. You're talking time frame, what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes at the most, 5?
Yeah, at the most. So with the travel program that I'm a part of, we have, I forget, it's crazy amount. It's like 10,000 some odd videos. And in YouTube, it shows the average amount of time watched, and it's like 43 seconds. Okay, so that says a lot. And if you're going to spend 10 seconds of that or 15 seconds of that with this long drawn out intro, or you're going to spend, an hour and a half trying to edit this thing, use that hour and a half to go into the weight room or run sprints or do something productive like that, and just send out the raw video. Like you guys are definitely talented enough to just send out a few clips where you don't need to be Steven Spielberg and make the next Star Wars or
just
something.
Distracting from it. We've got a couple other questions that came through. Olivia asked, is it okay to be persistent when contacting college coaches? I've sent a few emails to some high academic schools, but not all of them responded. Also, when is the best time to call these coaches? And I want to expand on that last part. Talking even best time of day, best time of year, obviously, as you said, coaches are busy and have other stuff to do, not only just at the high school level, but the college coaches that are doing the recruiting. So if you can talk a little bit on that too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely persistence is key, right? Be persistent, and then be consistent, right? I think those are two very similar things, but they also suggest something a little bit different. If you're consistent, then you have a routine that you're following on a weekly or monthly basis of distributing information out to college coaches. When you're persistent, you're really narrowing down on a few. And I'll say this, with 1,600 schools that are out there, if they're not willing to get back to you, and they're not showing any sort of mutual interest, keep them part of your consistent, communication, but don't get caught up on it, right? Invest more in those that are willing to engage with you. Otherwise, you're going to be let down, right? There are so many opportunities out there, so many different schools out there, so many coaches that would love to have a player like you. That don't beat yourself up, don't let your self-confidence wane because of the couple that won't get back to you. Continue to pursue the ones that there is potential with, right? And that's why it's important to have some stretch schools, some fallback schools, some schools in between on that list, because that's going to show you where your value is and where the most opportunity is. When it comes to what time of day you should contact them, for most schools, when they're in season, so when we get to later in the winter and into the spring, traditionally Monday is like an off day for them, where they're catching up on emails and they're doing stuff like that. So I always think that like a Monday morning email, if you can get into the habit of that, probably has the best chance. Most of the time on the weekends in season, or even during the fall practice season, they're out on the field all day, right? So reaching out to them on the weekend, the minute that they finish dragging the field or putting their equipment away, most of the time they want to go spend time with their friends or family. So, or celebrate a win or sulk in defeat. But the weekends are normally tough. So I would say the beginning part of the week for most college coaches is going to be the best time to reach out to them. And then probably, late morning into that lunch hour, because then after that, normally they have meetings or practice or need to be out wherever they got to go.
Perfect. No, that's excellent information, and exactly, I think, what we needed. So Alexia asks, and I think it'll be tough a little bit because, there's no real sense in knowing what a specific coach is thinking and from a particular program, but to the extent you can speak on it a little bit, if a coach is saying, hey, I like you, I like your skills, but, not quite sure where you'd fit in the program, what types of things could that mean? What should an athlete do kind of in response to that?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's face it. Let's talk about the reality of the situation. All 27 of you on this call right now are like your game changers. Like, you are people that are doing things that, to be honest, like most men and women would be afraid to pursue. Okay, and that's amazing, and I commend you. And whatever side of it you were on, listen, we have a female vice president. Right? How cool is that? Like, you guys can do these things. And I would say, Alexia, that maybe that's that coach's uncertainty, or maybe he's uncomfortable with the idea, which you have to understand and respect. Okay, but again, just as the coach, about the question about being persistent, I would thank that coach and continue to keep them a part of your consistent communication, but find the one that understands just how amazing it is what you're pursuing and wants to be a part of that journey with you.
Perfect. Another good question from Meredith coming up, and I know we're running out of time a little bit, so I want to make sure we get to this. Do coaches look at factors such as attending events like this that are put on by USA Baseball and MLB? If so, is this something that makes an athlete stand out?
Absolutely. And the fact that I think everybody, this is like an invite. Yeah, definitely an invite event that holds a lot of water, right? So make sure, again, to incorporate that into any communication that you put out, that you're part of this program. Also, the individuals that you're surrounding yourself from being a part of it, right? Use them as a resource or a reference. I'm sure, just as with myself, like if you want to send me an email or, something on social media, I'd be happy to answer questions. And be a resource if I can. Same thing with, I'm sure, a lot of the other presenters. So use them, because if you put that on your reference page and there's some familiarity there with you, okay, that's going to help inch you towards what you're looking to accomplish. So, it's a huge thing. You guys should be proud and leverage that.
Perfect. And I apologize for the sirens in the background. I'm sure you guys can probably hear some of that. I have one last question for you, Nelson. You talked towards the end, you mentioned marketing through social media and using their social media platforms. Obviously, there's different things, right? You want to be careful about what you're putting out there on social media, but from a recruiting specific standpoint, how can they utilize some of those platforms, or how have you seen athletes use those platforms to help better market themselves?
Yeah, I mean, show yourself getting after it, right? Like I think social media early on kind of had a bad rap, like, oh, like they're going to post pictures of them doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I don't think you'd be a part of this program if that was a real concern. I'm giving you all a lot more credit than that. I think, it's a reality of the way this world works. And, again, be consistent with it. And going back to the question about how to find the coach's emails to send the video to, you're just as well served by putting up short 15, 30-second, 1-minute clips on Twitter, on Instagram, on wherever, okay, and putting yourself out that way. If every day you posted you working out or doing something, it's going to gain traction, right? And then I would say that a great way to kind of snowball off that is find others that are willing to do the same and come up with your own slogan, like, no days off, getting after it, whatever. Make this group, make the EDI something, this group of people that just, works relentlessly at improving themselves, and people will take notice, right? So if you can have that profile, or have that website or that PDF in your profile bio, right? So coaches can click on that, and then every day you kind of put out a little bit of information. You're your own brand, and you need to market that and do so in a positive way.
That was a fantastic answer. Like, couldn't have said it better myself. That's amazing. And hopefully that helped you guys, because I know a lot of you guys are active on social media, and some of you who aren't might soon be. So that it's another platform that's out there, and people are using it, right? Everybody's on their phones. So, definitely something to consider. Well, I don't see any other questions coming through, and we are right about at time. But if anybody has a last minute one, feel free to shoot it in there while I wrap up. But truly, thanks so much, Nelson, for joining us. This was fantastic information. I know we're going to touch base on it at our next check-in sessions, and get some feedback from everybody, and kind of talk about what everybody learned, because this is exactly what we've been kind of talking about it. And hopefully this was all helpful for you guys joining in here today. Just a reminder, our next session is 2 Fridays from now. So November 20th, right? So don't forget about kind of your goals, the goal setting, all of those things too, so that when we get to the check-in at the end of that day, we have some things to talk about. My group, let's be ready to chat. We're going to touch on this college recruiting stuff. So I want to know what you guys have done in the last week and a half for that. And again, we will be passing out links, so to helpful links, the deck, that kind of thing, and then the link for the free profile on NCSA, so you guys can use that platform and get started that way as well. So with that, we will call it a night. But thanks again so much, Nelson. Really appreciate it.
And thank you, Sarah, and thank you everybody for being on. I look forward to watching you guys kick some butt.
All right, bye guys.